feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd.
It is the last week of December, 2 days before New Year's Eve, and a woman is standing outside her own home on a quiet street in Louisiana. Within minutes, she is gone. No stranger, no masked figure in the dark. The person police say pulled the trigger already knew her, had history with her, was, according to investigators, the father of one of her own children. This is the story of Lerhonda Carter. Everybody who loved her called her Lulu, and by the end of this video, you will understand why her death shook an entire community, and why her case is forcing a conversation a lot of us need to be having. Before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from today. And if you have not already, hit subscribe, because we bring you a new case every single week.
Our team coverage continues tonight as people are responding to the shooting and the life lost of a local businesswoman who News 10's Renee Allen learns had a vision for her life.
A local business owner, entrepreneur, tragically lost their life. On social media, condolences of prayer and peace for Lulu Carter. A business community in shock and many heartbroken by the sudden loss of 40-year-old Lerhonda Lulu Carter. Carter was known for her many ventures, including the Bliss Lounge on Jefferson Street and the French 75 Bar and Lounge on McKinley, both located in downtown Lafayette. One person referred to her as a fashionista due to her unique style. They noted she always dressed to impress, even when dressing down. A person called her business-oriented, loved travel, and God-fearing. One person even told News 10 that Carter, as a black female entrepreneur, was able to overcome numerous hurdles to successfully establish a thriving club in downtown Lafayette. One person even said that there was still so much more to come from Carter. Renee Allen, KLFY, News 10.
Lerhonda Carter was born in Louisiana in 1985, and she grew up in and around Lafayette, in a region known as Acadiana. If you have never been, Acadiana is the kind of place with soul baked into it. Cajun and Creole culture, incredible food, music pouring out of every open door on a Friday night. It is a proud region, but like a lot of places with deep culture, it is not always a place with deep resources. Growing up there does not hand you an easy path. You have to carve one out yourself. And that is exactly what Lulu did. She became a mother early in life. And instead of letting that slow her down, she used it as fuel. By her 30s, she was not working for someone else's dream. She was building her own. In downtown Lafayette, on Jefferson Street, she opened a place called Bliss Cocktail Lounge. Think low lighting, velvet seats, a drink menu that felt curated rather than thrown together. It became one of those spots where a Friday night out actually felt like an event. Then she expanded. On McKinley Street, she opened French 75 Bar and Lounge, named after the classic champagne cocktail. Elegant, a little more upscale, a different vibe from Bliss, which told you something important about Lulu as a businesswoman. She was not running one idea into the ground. She understood her market. She knew Lafayette needed different kinds of nightlife spaces, and she was the one filling that gap. And if 2 lounges were not enough, she also launched the Style Loft, a fashion boutique where she personally curated clothing for women who wanted to feel powerful walking out the door. 3 businesses, 1 woman, built in a city, in a state, in a country where black women starting nightlife and fashion businesses from scratch still face real obstacles getting bank loans, getting investors, getting taken seriously. Local reporters who covered her death specifically noted that she had overcome real hurdles to build a thriving club in the middle of downtown Lafayette. That detail matters. It tells you this was not luck. This was grit. On social media, Lulu was magnetic. She posted grand opening nights with lines out the door. She posted behind-the-scenes clips of her testing new cocktails, rearranging furniture, hyping up her staff. She posted herself in outfits from her own boutique, dancing, smiling, completely in her element. She traveled to Miami, Atlanta, New York, and she did not just post vacation photos for the aesthetic. She brought ideas home. She would see a bar concept or a fashion trend somewhere else in the country, and then actually build a version of it back in Lafayette. That is rare. A lot of people dream out loud online. Lulu executed. People who knew her described her as a fashionista, someone who dressed to impress even on an ordinary Tuesday. They called her God-fearing. They called her business-minded. They called her a traveler with big vision. And underneath all of it, everyone who knew her kept coming back to the same word: resilient. She had bounced back from hard times before. She had pushed through setbacks that would have ended a lot of people's dreams. And I think that word resilient is going to sit heavier with you by the end of this video than it does right now. Now let's slow down, because this is the part where the story turns. It was December the 30th, 2025, 2 days before New Year's Eve, in Scott, Louisiana, a quiet suburb just outside Lafayette, on a residential street called Delhome Avenue. In the 800 block, life looked completely ordinary. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, that ordinary Tuesday broke apart. Neighbors heard gunfire. Scott police officers responded to the scene within minutes. When they arrived, they found Lerhonda Carter suffering from gunshot wounds. She was rushed to a local hospital. She did not survive. Lerhonda Carter was 40 years old. Take a second with that. 40 years old. 3 businesses. A child who called her mom. A whole community that watched her grow from a girl with big dreams into a woman who actually pulled them off. Gone. In the middle of an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, on the street where she lived. Here is where this case moves fast. Faster than a lot of the cases we cover on this channel. By that same evening, Scott police had already made an arrest. A man named James Michael Joseph, 44 years old, was taken into custody around 5 in the evening, just a few blocks away on Vermilion Street in Lafayette. He was booked and charged with second-degree murder. According to investigators, Joseph was the father of one of Lulu's children, someone who had shared a piece of her life, someone who, in theory, should have been one of the people protecting her, not the person accused of ending her life. He was held without bond. A second man was also arrested that day, Jesse Howard Alfred Jr., around 49 years old. He was charged with accessory after the fact to second-degree murder, meaning police believe he assisted in some way after the shooting had already happened. He was later released after posting bond. The exact nature of what he is accused of doing has not been fully detailed publicly, and the investigation has remained active in the months since. Police described what happened as stemming from a domestic dispute. 2 words that sound so clinical, so procedural, sitting on top of something that was anything but simple. A domestic dispute, in the language of a police report, can mean almost anything. But in the real world, it usually means 2 people who had a relationship, who had a history, who had trust between them at some point, and something in that history turned violent enough to end a life. I want to be honest with you here, because a responsible true crime video does not pretend to have answers it does not have. As of the most recent updates on this case, police have not publicly released a motive. We do not know exactly what led to that moment on Delhome Avenue. We do not know what was said, what escalated, or what the days and weeks before December the 30th looked like behind closed doors. Investigators have kept a lot of the specifics close, which is common in an active homicide case, especially one still working through the court system. What we do know is this: James Joseph remains in custody, held without bond, facing a second-degree murder charge that carries the possibility of life in prison under Louisiana law. Jesse Alfred faces his own charge, and his case is moving through the system as well. The investigation, as far as public reporting shows, is still considered active. So no, we cannot tell you exactly why this happened, but we can talk about the pattern it fits into, because unfortunately, it is a pattern a lot of families recognize.
That was champagne. I know I've been the worst, but I love you better.
Here is something that needs to be said plainly, because it gets missed constantly in stories like this one. People sometimes assume that financial success, visibility, a strong public image, somehow acts like armor. That if you are thriving, if you own multiple businesses, if you have followers cheering you on, you must be safe from the kind of violence that happens behind closed doors. That assumption is dangerous, because it is false. Domestic violence does not check your bank account before it decides who to target. In some cases, and researchers who study this have pointed this out for years, A partner's success can actually become a pressure point rather than a protection. It can trigger resentment. It can trigger a feeling of being left behind or overshadowed. And when that resentment goes unaddressed, when it festers in private while the public sees only smiling photos and grand openings, it can turn into something devastating. We are not saying that is definitively what happened in Lulu's case. The investigation is still open, and we owe it to her and to the legal process not to speculate beyond what has been confirmed. But the broader pattern, a woman thriving publicly while carrying private strain in a relationship, is one that shows up again and again in cases just like this one across the country. It is worth naming, because naming it is often the first step towards someone getting out before it is too late.
Arrangements have been announced for Lerhonda Lulu Carter, who was shot and killed in Scott. According to a social media post, the final toast to celebrate her life will be Saturday, January 10th at 11 a.m. The funeral will be held at Zion Travelers Baptist Church in New Roads, Louisiana. Carter was a well-known local business owner and entrepreneur.
When the news broke, Lafayette did not stay quiet. Her businesses shut their doors. Bliss Cocktail Lounge went dark. The Style Loft closed. Tributes flooded social media, the exact platform where Lulu had spent years documenting her rise. One grand opening and one outfit post at a time. People who had danced in her lounge on a Friday night, people she had mentored, people who simply admired her from a distance, all showed up to grieve together. Her funeral was held in early January of 2026, and by every account, it drew a community that genuinely felt the loss. Not as a distant headline, but as a real hole in their city. And through all of it, there was her son, a child who is now growing up without his mother in his life. No headline, no arrest, no courtroom outcome is ever going to fill that space. That is the part of this story that does not fit neatly into a true crime video. That is the part that just stays sad, no matter how the legal process ends. As of the most recent reporting, James Michael Joseph remains behind bars without bond, facing a second-degree murder charge. Thingsway. Jesse Howard Alfred Jr. is out on bond, facing his own charge of accessory after the fact. The Louisiana court system continues to move through this case, and updates are expected as it proceeds toward trial. Justice, in cases like this, rarely moves quickly. It grinds forward slowly, hearing by hearing, filing by filing. For a family waiting on answers, that pace can feel unbearable. But it is moving. Lerhonda Carter spent her life building things. A lounge that made strangers feel like family. A bar that made people feel a little more elegant just for walking through the door. A boutique that made women feel like they belonged in every room they entered. She did all of that starting with very little, in a community that did not always make it easy for someone who looked like her to succeed. She deserved decades more of that life. She deserved to watch her son grow up. She deserved to open a fourth business, a fifth, however far her ambition wanted to take her. Instead, her story now stands as a warning that a lot of us need to hear. Success does not guarantee safety. A smiling photo online does not tell you what is happening at home. And the people we let closest to us are sometimes the ones capable of causing us the most harm. If this story affected you the way it affected putting it together for you today, do me a favor. Share it. Talk about it with someone. Say her name. And if you or anyone you know is dealing with domestic violence, please reach out for help. There are hotlines, there are shelters, there are people trained specifically to help someone get out safely. You do not have to face it in silence, and you do not have to face it alone. Rest in peace, Lulu. Lafayette will not forget you. If you want more cases like this one covered honestly and respectfully, make sure you are subscribed, because we are just getting started.
I feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps